If you have ever walked into your living room to find your cat sitting perfectly motionless, staring intensely at a blank wall for minutes on end, you have probably laughed it off. Most people assume their cats are just exhibiting a funny feline quirk, zoning out, or playfully seeing a ghost. They are completely wrong. What you perceive as a harmless habit is actually a complex sensory calculation and, in some cases, a desperate cry for help. There are 12 specific translations for this wall-staring behavior. You must pay critical attention to number 12. It reveals a silent, severe medical emergency that could cost your cat its life in less than 24 hours if ignored. Let us decode the secret language of the wall stare. Point 1. Acute auditory triangulation. To understand what your cat is doing, we have to look back at their desert ancestors. Wild felines evolved incredibly precise ultrasonic hearing to pinpoint the exact location of burrowing prey moving deep underground. When your cat is locked onto a seemingly blank piece of drywall, they are actively tracking high-frequency acoustic anomalies that human ears are completely deaf to. It might be the microscopic scratching of mice, the rustling of termites, or shifting water pipes hidden behind the plaster. Your cat is using your wall like a massive acoustic amplifier. Point 2. Visual spectrum anomalies. Cats do not see the world the way we do. Their optical structure is uniquely designed to process ultraviolet light, a trait originally meant to track the glowing trails left by prey. While your cat seems mesmerized by a pristine wall, they are actually observing an invisible light show. They are tracking chemical cleaning residues you left behind, intricate dust patterns, or shifting light refractions on the paint that are entirely invisible to the human eye. To them, that flat surface is alive with ultraviolet movement. Point 3. Microthermal fluctuation sensing. As ambush predators, cats rely heavily on detecting minute heat signatures to locate hidden prey. Even indoors, their bodies are finely tuned to microscopic temperature shifts. If your cat is staring intensely at a corner, they may have detected a tiny microdraft coming through a poorly insulated structural gap, or they might be sensing a hidden heat source, like a warm electrical wire humming just behind the baseboard, subtly altering the wall's surface temperature. They are reading the unseen thermal map of your house. Point 4. Olfactory processing. You might catch your cat staring at the wall with their mouths slightly open, looking almost like they are grimacing. In the wild, cats use a specialized scent detector in the roof of their mouth called the Jacobson's organ to decode complex pheromones and establish strict territorial borders. When your indoor cat does this facing a seemingly blank wall, they are not owning out. A microscopic crack in your baseboard or drywall is funneling a tiny stream of outside air into the room. Your cat is intensely analyzing the invisible scent particles entering their territory, reading the chemical signature of a passing fox or a neighborhood stray that you cannot even smell. Point 5. The hyper-focused predatory trance. Absolute stillness is a primary survival and hunting mechanism for mesopredators. A cat can freeze their body for incredibly long periods to avoid detection or prepare for a lethal ambush. When your cat is cemented to the floor, staring unblinkingly at the paint, they are oft unlocked onto a target so small you would need a magnifying glass to see it. It could be a nearly microscopic dust mite, a tiny net resting on the surface, or a single strand of spider silk catching a faint draft. They are holding their perfectly still stance, waiting for the exact fraction of a second that the prey moves to strike. You think they are doing nothing, but they are executing a highly calculated predatory sequence. Point 6. Environmental stress displacement. In the feline world, direct eye contact is a challenge. Wild felines actively avoid looking at each other to de-escalate tension and prevent violent territorial dispute. Inside your home, this primal instinct translates into a fascinating coping mechanism. If your cat's It's facing a blank wall when there is chaos in the house. They are using that neutral, featureless surface to self-soothe. Your cat is feeling overwhelmed by loud household noises, active children, or unfamiliar guests. By staring at a blank space, they are actively disengaging their overloaded senses to prevent a full panic response. It is their way of taking a deep breath and stepping away from the sensory overload. Have you ever noticed your cat facing the wall when you run the vacuum or host a noisy party? Let us know in the comments below. Point 7. Whisker fatigue recovery. Think of how you feel in a loud, crowded room. You just want peace. Your cat's whiskers act like hypersensitive tactical radars. In the wild, they detect faint shifts in air pressure to track escaping prey. Inside your house, these delicate receptors are constantly bombarded. Brushing against narrow food bowls and feeling the blast of the air conditioning can leave their sensory system completely overwhelmed. When your cat retreats to a blank wall and stares, they are creating a sensory deprivation chamber. A flat, static wall minimizes air currents and visual clutter. They are shutting down the data feed, allowing overloaded receptors a desperate chance to reset. Point 8. Circadian rhythm disruption. Cats are crepuscular hunters, hardwired to peak at dawn and dusk. Their internal clocks dictate when they hunt based on the shifting sun. But our modern homes are filled with bright LED bulbs and screens that stay on late. This artificial lighting fundamentally glitches their ancient internal clock. When you see your cat sitting perfectly still, staring blankly at the drywall at night, their brain is caught in a twilight zone. They are experiencing a biological software crash, attempting to force their brain into sleep mode while unnatural environmental cues scream that it is daytime. That stare is a highly evolved predator navigating a confusing modern environment. Point 9. The pre-tremor phase of feline hyperesthesia. To survive in the wild, a feline needs a highly reactive, lightning-fast neurological system. They must be ready to explode into action. Sometimes, this highly tuned wiring misfires. If your cat is staring intensely at the wall with dilated pupils, pay close attention. This prolonged freeze is often the immediate precursor to a neurological event. They are frozen because their nerves are tingling uncontrollably. Seconds after this intense stare, you might see their skin ripple erratically along their back. They might suddenly whip around to frantically bite at their tail, or begin phantom scratching. This is not a quirky burst of energy. They are experiencing sensory overload deep within their nervous system, and that motionless wall stare was the warning sign right before the storm. Point 10. Spatial memory consolidation. Apex predators must constantly update incredibly complex mental maps of their hunting territories. One missed detail about a dead end could mean losing a meal or becoming one. Inside your living room, your cat is doing the exact same thing. When they sit and stare at a corner or a flat stretch of wall, they are actively processing and memorizing the exact spatial boundaries and geometry of the room. They are calculating distances, mapping out structural angles, and guaranteeing they know the absolute optimal escape routes if a sudden threat appears. Point 11. Cognitive decline. As wild predators age, they naturally lose their razor-sharp spatial awareness and navigational processing power. In the wild, this sensory decline is quickly fatal, but in the safety of your home, it manifests as feline dementia. If your senior cat is staring blankly at the wall, they are not just zoning out. They are deeply disoriented. They likely walked over to that exact spot with a specific purpose, forgot their objective entirely, and have become mentally stuck in a state of deep confusion. They are simply waiting for their aging brain to reboot. When this happens, softly speak their name and gently guide them back to their favorite resting place. Finally, point 12. And this is the absolute most critical behavior on this list. We must immediately pivot from fascinating sensory quirks to a severe, life-threatening physical crisis. If your cat's stare transitions into them physically pressing their forehead flat against the wall, do not take a picture. This is not a cute, quirky sleeping posture. It is a terrifying clinical symptom known as head pressing. This physical act indicates severe brain trauma, a growing neurological tumor, or toxic poisoning. They are physically pressing their head against the drywall because the pressure inside their skull is agonizing. This is their ultimate, silent cry for help, and failing to rush them to an emergency veterinarian within 24 hours could easily cost them their life. In the end, our cats rely on us completely to translate their silent language. They mask their pain and fear behind ancient primal instincts, hoping we care enough to notice the subtle changes in their daily routines. When you take the time to learn and read these hidden signs, you are not just a pet owner to them anymore. You become their greatest protector, their safest sanctuary, and the single most important